Hello all you lovely people out there. Well, this is the tutorial for a terrific song that I'm sure you all know. It's called Ain't Misbehaving, and it was written in 1929 by, amongst others, Fats Waller. And the lyrics, I'm sure you're aware of, ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you. Apparently the lyrics were written by someone other than Fats Waller while he was in jail. So the reason he ain't misbehaving is basically because he can't. It adds another little twist to the lyrics, but it just amuses me. Anyway, this song is in the sort of a stride jazz idiom, which means that it's very much on a rhythm, and the chord changes are regular. Most of the chord changes are just 2 beats. There are a few exceptions to that, which we'll see as we go along. But really what this song is all about those diminished chords, which just give it that flavour and character of 20s and 30s music. They loved their diminished chords, or to give them their proper name, diminished 7th chords. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the whole idea of diminished chords, but one crops up straight away. It's second chord in the introduction, and it's a C sharp diminished, which is the easiest one that you will need to learn because it's a 2-finger chord, and its shape on the fretboard is 0 1 0 1 like that. It's a luscious, voluptuous chord. All the diminished chords are, so we go through the introduction. There's one diminished chord there, and once we get to the first line of the verse, we've got 2 of the perishers. So we'd better have a look at them in a little bit of detail. Now, so to give them their proper title, they're called diminished 7th chords. And what that means in musical terms is that it's a chord of 4 notes, each of which are different, and each of which are a flattened third or a diminished third apart on the scale. So let's take, the first one that you come to in the introduction is a C sharp diminished. So we need a C sharp to start with, a C sharp, a flattened third from that goes C sharp, D, E flat to E, a flattened third from that, E, F, F sharp, G, which is the 4th string open, and then a flattened third from G is A, B flat, B flat, G, G sharp, A, B flat, which is the 1st string, 1st fret. So we've got a C sharp, an E, a G, and a B flat or A sharp. And so we have 3 intervals that are exactly the same distance apart. So 4 semitones. So C sharp, D, E flat, E. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the diminished 7th chord consists of 4 notes that are all 4 semitones apart from each other. Okay, now that implies various things. One of the things that it implies is that you can call the diminished chord by any of the notes in it. So what we've called a C sharp diminished, which consists of the notes C sharp, E, G, B flat or A sharp, you can call it by the name of any of those notes, which means that it is, you'll see it written as a C sharp diminished, you'll see it written as an E diminished, you'll see it written as a G diminished, and you'll see it written as an A sharp or a B flat diminished. And that's exactly the same position on the fretboard, 0 1 0 1. Now another thing that implies is that if there are 4 different notes in the diminished 7th chord, it's properly called diminished 7th, but on a lot of song sheets you see it just shortened to diminished or dim, and there's another way of notating it that we'll come to later. Now, if there are 4 notes all different, there are only 12 different notes in the Western music scale. Therefore, it follows, if you think it through, that there are only 3 different positions to cover all the diminished chords. Just digest that for a moment and I'll say it again. There are only 3 different positions to cover all of the diminished chords. Okay, so it then follows that that first one you've got covers 4 of them. So if you've got a C sharp diminished, let's say that you want a C diminished. Okay, so you've got to find a C note. Now you could do it down there, but for simplicity's sake, we try that one. 3rd fret, 1st string. Play it with your little finger and then make a G7th shape with the rest of your 2 middle finger and ring finger. So you've got a G7 shape with those 3 fingers slid up to the 3rd fret. And you need to put your index finger over onto the 4th string at the 2nd fret. So the shape that you have is 2, 3, 2, 3. And it's index finger on the 4th string, ring finger on the 3rd string, middle finger on the 2nd string, and little finger, never pinky, on the 1st string. So, okay, we've got then a C sharp for the last chord. This is a C, can be called a C diminished. Now, what other notes do we have in there? Well, on the 4th string, we have an A, so we could call it an A diminished. On the 3rd string, we have a D sharp or E flat, so we could call it a D sharp or E flat diminished. On the 2nd string, we have an F sharp, which is sometimes known as G flat, but for our purposes, it's usually F sharp. So it can be an F sharp diminished, and then finally, it can be a C diminished. Right, okay. So we've got that shape for our C sharp diminished. We've got that shape for our C diminished. Well, that covers 8 of the 12 notes. So it then stands to reason that the one in between those is the one that covers the other 4 notes. And so it proves the 4 notes we have, if you play it 1, 2, 1, 2, which is the telephone number for Scotland Yard, as we all know. 1, 2, 1, 2 consists of a G sharp or A flat note on the 4th string, consists of a D natural note on the 3rd string, an F natural note on the 2nd string, and a B natural note on the 1st string. So we've got 3 natural notes there, D, F, B, and 1 G sharp or A flat note on the 4th string. So there we are. Right, that's the theory and practice of diminished chords. For the most part, you don't need to go any further up the fretboard than the 3rd fret, because if we start with, starting on that, let's call that a G diminished in the 1st position, okay? So that's a G diminished, that's a G sharp diminished, that's an A diminished. And then if you go up 1 more fret, so that you're playing 3, 4, 3, 4, you look at what's happening on the 2nd string, where your middle finger is, and it's on a G note. So you started on a G note and you finished on a G note when you play 3-4-3-4, which proves that there are only 3 different positions, because once you get above the 3rd fret, you're repeating different inversions, which can have their place, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. Okay, so that is the diminished chord. It's a 4-finger chord, which is very, very good because it covers all 4 strings. And what do we have when we've fretted all 4 strings? We have a movable chord. So we can, and so on, up the fretboard. And that descending is often used as a musical effect in comedy sketches or even horror films. We get that run of descending diminished chords to indicate horror about to ensue. Now today I'm using my high G tenor, and this is simply to illustrate that duplication of the G note on the 4th string open and the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And this of course implies, and that again, another big shout out to Bill Ferguson at Excelsior Ukuleles. He has these built using woods and materials that he sourced all over the world, but they're built in the UK and they are absolutely lovely. So,
and light.
And light as a feather, it really is. So a big shout out to Bill Ferguson down in Hampshire. I think he's Emsworth Way where he builds these things, and they're beautiful. And before anybody asks why do you need a low G and a high G tenor ukulele, it's on me t-shirt. Yes, I really do need all these ukuleles, so be quiet. Okay, right, well, we better get back to this song. Now we've sorted out what diminished 7th chords are all about. So the introduction starts on a C and it goes to a C sharp diminished, which is the easy one. It's just the 2-finger one, 0, 1, 0, 1. And then we go to an F and an F minor, and then a C, and then just a G with an augmented, a plus sign next to it. We've come across this before. It means an augmented note, and it means that you're sharpening or raising by a semitone the 5th note in the scale. So in the scale of G, the 5th note is D, so we have to raise that D by half a tone. And the way we do that is to find the D note in the chord, in the G chord. The D note is on the 3rd string. So if we want to raise that, then there are several ways of doing it. You can slide your index finger up to the 3rd fret on the 2nd string, or you can, the way I find easiest to do it is to move my ring finger over onto the 3rd fret of the 3rd string and replace it on the 2nd string with my little finger.
Or I flatten my ring finger across the 2 strings.
Yep, so that's another way of doing it if you find that easier. In this particular context, we're going from a G augmented, which is only on 1 beat, and we're going to a G from there. So if you can flatten your ring finger across and then just bring it up to the normal position again. So there we go. So let's just play through that introduction. 2 beats on each chord except that G augmented, because that's just a little accidental note put in for colour. Okay, yep. So we do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's C, C sharp diminished, F minor, C, G augmented, G, C, G. And there we're on the G, ready to go up to the C to begin the lyric. The lyric, the first verse is, the first and second verses are both the same, and the 3rd verse also. With a slight difference at the end of the verse, because at the end of the first verse you're leading into the second, and at the end of the second verse you're leading into the bridge, and that's why there's a difference. So now what we have on the first line of the song is a C followed by a C sharp diminished, then a D minor followed by an F sharp diminished, or we could call it a C diminished, but I called it an F sharp diminished to avoid confusion with the C sharp diminished. So we get C, C sharp diminished, D minor, F sharp diminished. And that sits nicely, the lyric sits nicely on top of that. So we get no one to talk to, all by myself. 2 beats on each. Nice and simple. Once you've mastered those diminished chords, you'll find songs like this an absolute breeze. But those diminished chords are so characteristic of the era in which this song was written. As I say, it was written in 1929, and the 20s and 30s, they love their diminished chords. They crop up all over the place. Very much a jazz influenced style of playing, and very much a jazz chord. So what do we got? We got that, and the second line, we've got a C followed by a C7, F followed by F minor. Now, there's a little trick to help you remember, or to help you fret those. Pam, over to you.
Okay. Now, if you play the C with your little finger, and then play the C7 in the second position, so it's 3, 0, 0, 3.
Use your middle finger on the fourth string.
Oh, well, I use my big one.
Or your index. Either way.
And then keep your little finger there to go to the F. So you're playing an F with an added C. And then you can keep it there to go to the F minor. So your little finger can stay in that position for the whole line.
Yep. Now, I play the C7th in the second position with my middle finger, thus.
Yeah, it's easier to get to the F.
Because when I'm going to the F, I can just slide it down to the second fret on the fourth string. So that's, again, just a little tip to make that sequence easier for you. So it's C, C7, F, F minor, and we're actually going from there to a C and an A minor. So if you want, you can leave your little finger there for the C and also for the A minor. If you want, or if you want to take it off for the A minor, just to give you a little bit of a change from that C note ringing out over the top, that's another option. Okay, so what we end up with for the first verse is 2, 3, 4. No one to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for Now, you would expect it to resolve here back to the root chord of C, but it doesn't, because it's going to the second verse, which begins on the root chord C, but there's just a little diversion before it gets there, a little turnaround at the end of the verse, and that little turnaround invokes the circle of fifths pattern that we're very familiar with. So it goes from a G7, it goes to E7, to A7, to D7, to G7, and then resolves to the C for the second verse. So again, that's a very characteristic little turnaround at the end of a line for the songs of that era. So we then go from that to the second verse. I know for certain the one I love, and you follow the second verse through exactly the same as the first until you get to the end, and rather than go round that circle of fifths again, another slightly different turnaround, but it ends up on an E7th because the next chord, or the first chord of the bridge as it is going to be an A minor, and so that's a passing chord, a bridging chord to get from playing in C to playing in A minor frequently goes via E7. So the end of the line of the second verse goes, ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you, and an F minor, and back to a C to E7. Okay, right, now we're in the bridge. Anything I've forgotten so far?
No, just remember to play that C again with your little finger so you can get to the F minor. Back to the C.
Okay, now we get into the bridge. And the bridge is following a little run up on the second string of the ukulele. It starts on an E note, which is the second string open. Then it goes to an F note, which is the second string fretted at 1, an F sharp note, which is the second string fretted at 2, and then it goes to a G note, which is either the second string fretted at 3 or fourth string open, as we remember. So the effect that you get in shaping chords for this is it starts on an A minor, then it goes to an F, and it goes to a D7, and then it goes to an A7th. So what we're getting here is A minor, F, to D7 with the F sharp note, and then A7th, or you can do it the way I do it, just to add a little bit of interest, and play the A7th chord as 0, 4, 5, 4. So if you play an ordinary G chord and raise it 2 frets, that is an A chord on the first 3 strings, but you've still got the G note as the open 4th string, and the G note is the 7th note in A. So that's the second position for an A7th chord, and it's nice. So what we get is now, did you notice there were 4 beats on each of those chords? That's where the bridge differs very much from the verses. And so there we are, 4 beats to a chord instead of just the 2. And then when we get to the end of the bridge, Your Kisses Are Worth Waiting For, then we revert to the 2 beats per chord pattern. Excuse me. So that means that the bridge passage, the middle 8, goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Like Jack Horner, in the corner, don't go nowhere, what do I care? And then we go to the last line. Now, it's nice to put a little stop on there so that the vocal comes out over nothing. So we go, like Jack Horner, in the corner, don't go nowhere, what do I care? But rather than just play the chord once, it's nice to revisit it in the gap between the vocal. So we get, like Jack Horner, in the corner, don't go nowhere, what do I care? So it's just varying the sound a bit rather than just plodding along on the same level all the time. We sort of break it up a little bit. The last line of the bridge passage goes, your kisses are worth waiting, 1, 2, A7, D7, G7. So there we've got that little circle of fifths turnaround again, starting with the A7 rather than the E7. Anybody who's interested in chord melody, and I know some of you are, you can achieve that in this in that bridge passage. On the A minor, the melody is going, which is simply the C note and the A note on the first string. So we've got A minor, You can do exactly the same over an F chord. Play an F chord with your little finger, and exactly the same over a D7th chord. And then when we get to the what do I care, if you play the A7th chord up there, you've got it on chord melody with the first and second string. So there we are. That's echoing the melody in your accompanying. Okay, so we get. Okay, and then if you want to carry on the chord melody, play your G with your little finger up on the 5th fret of the first string. Your kisses, and you can leave it there for the A minor. Are worth waiting for. You're doing a run down there. So there, that's another little, just a trick. Now, the arrangement that I've done, we play the bridge passage twice and the second and the fourth, the third verse twice. So if you'd like to do the chord melody on one of those and not the other, my lovely Andy Eastwood says it's better to do more the second time round. So add stuff on to the second time round, which just puts some added interest in to what you're repeating. So you might want to put that chord melody in second time round. Okay, there we got. So that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Apart from the odd symbols.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we're coming to the coda. So the second time round, ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you. That's the end of the song. But you don't want to just end the song abruptly like that. So I've put a little coda on the end, an instrumental coda, which is pretty much exactly the same as the introduction. And I've put a mark on the C chord over the last word of the lyric, which is the same C chord as the one, the first C chord in the coda instrumental ending. It's some sort of diacritical mark that typesetters use, and I can't remember what it's called. But it's the one that looks like that. It looks like two letter S's, one on top of the other. And the only other thing to point out is in that coda, in that ending, which goes C, C sharp diminished, F minor, C, G augmented, G, C. Now I've shown the C sharp diminished in a slightly different notation from the usual one. What you'll usually get is a capital letter C, the sharp sign, and then lowercase dim. But if you need to compress that a little bit in your music, you will see the diminished chord symbols shown as capital C, the sharp sign, and then a small circle like the symbol for degrees when you're measuring temperatures. You get degrees Fahrenheit. That little degrees sign is often used in song sheets to show a diminished chord. So if you come across that and wonder what it is, that's what it is. Okay?
Yep, that's it.
I think that's about it. There's some bits and pieces to think about there. If anybody wants the song sheet, give us a message and we'll email it to you. Otherwise, we'll be putting a play-along version up later in the week. And so if you like it, you can play along to it. We've got another comic song, a bit of Friday Foolishness, coming out Friday this week, which is going to be fun. And then more next week. So I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, okay, until we meet, stay safe, be kind to yourselves, and look after each other. And that's all for us for now. So, bye for now.
Bye.